Good evening and welcome. I'm Todd Duplantis, and you are on the road beyond. Good to have you with us on Facebook and YouTube. We're glad to be here with you, bringing you new content every Monday night. Tonight, we're going behind the scenes of a trade that's been a problem for decades. It's valuable and produces a highly sought after prize. We're going to be hearing from a guest who went undercover with actual African rhino poachers. You may ask, what are they after? Well, the horns. Why? Well, we're not going to get into the actual price of a rhino horn, what it goes on the black market. Let's just say, though, it's more valuable in weight than cocaine or gold. That'll give you an idea of what we're dealing with. Get the picture? But tonight's guest isn't looking to vilify the poachers, but rather to show them as much of victims as in the trade as the rhinos they hunt. He's our guest tonight needs a little bit of an introduction. He's a journalist, a magician. That's right. A world traveler who's been to Africa many times to make a difference. Please welcome to the show, Jacob Calle. Jacob, it's good to see you.
Hi, thanks for having me. Thank you so much, Todd.
Yeah, good to see you back again. Many people have read about your exploits in the Houston press. Now you're back in Houston to talk about and expose what's going on here to African poachers, right?
That's right.
But you've got a different take on this story, because you and I talked about this several months ago when we were a guest on another show, and you had talked to me about what you're doing. But what struck me is that you're looking at this from the other side of the coin. You're not looking to vilify these guys. Tell us a little bit about that.
So when I first started on this project, I met this poacher, and he was one of the kindest, most sincere men that I've met on that trip. And unfortunately, he was a rhino poacher. And he when I did ask him how much he was being paid for these jobs, he was getting paid $5 to kill a rhino. $5.
They're going out and they're performing these duties. I would imagine, I'm surmised, they're looking to feed their families. They're not making a whole lot of money, but the next step up in the operations, those are the ones that are putting it on the black market and making a lot of money.
Yes, and that's what I thought I misheard him whenever he said that. I was like, 5,000? He goes, no, $5. He's just trying to get food for his family, just to eat and just to have enough money to survive for that day. And then I was in Uganda, and then I met another poacher, and I heard his story. And of course, I don't support poachers at all, whatsoever, but sometimes I do sympathize for them. And for the men that I kept running into, I'm like, these are family men, like these are people that are just in aggressive poverty that are just trying to do whatever it takes just to put food on the table. And then I started thinking, have I ever been so desperate for something where I have felt where I needed to commit a crime? Yeah. And the answer is no, I have not. And right. So therefore I can't be in the same shoes as them and have an opinion on whether what they're doing is right or wrong. Because the way they see rhinos is the way that you and I see chickens, deer, a cow. To them, it's just an animal. We look at the rhino, we look at the panda, the lion, the tiger, all these majestic animals that we consider like trophies of the world. We anthropomorphize them. We just highly, they're beloved. But to them, it's just food on the table. So I think understanding that where they come from really helps me kind of understand more of where they're coming from. And then this is where I'm able to go, okay, let's talk. How can we help you?
Well, I was looking at some of the statistics earlier in preparing for the show, and the populations, though, of the black rhino across Africa have increased by just over 12% from 2018 to 2021. However, the white rhino, which I imagine is the most valuable, their population has declined by almost 12% from 2018 to 2021. These are endangered animals. There's only so many of them out there, and it's really taken a toll, particularly on the white rhino. Is that what you've noticed?
Yeah, working with the southern whites, the ones from Kenya, or I'm sorry, from South Africa. In South Africa, they have a plethora of them in Kruger National Parks over in KZN, and refuges in that area for the rhino sanctuaries, and they are easily obtained by poachers.
Is it because there isn't enough protection for these animals, or do these guys hunt at dark when they're under the shadow of darkness to be able to do these deeds? What is
they do this in broad daylight?
Broad daylight.
They do this in broad daylight. I realize, sadly, I don't want to jump the gun into this interview to talk about later, but these animals, they're going extinct. I honestly feel zero hope for this animal. And until we help these people, that's whenever we could find a direct answer and help the animal. We got people in safari drivers. They're with a family. They're driving around saying, oh, there's a rhino. They're texting on their phone. Okay, if you drive down this road, blah, 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 into Kruger National Park, you will find the rhino. Or they will act as, again, as a safari driver, broad daylight, in the middle of the day. A lone safari driver will go in the middle of the day, pick up poachers, come back in, and they will switch out clothes that he's provided for them. He's got fake park passes that he has set up with Kruger National Park. And I really hate using their name and exploiting their mishaps, but it's no secret to Kruger. They may not want to announce it, but it's there. I'm sure it's in all these parks. It's not that the parks are corrupt. They want to find the answer and help these animals, but it's the villages that are corrupt. And it's the outside villages that work in those parks. And they honor poachers. The kingpins are beloved. They're the ones giving money out and helping out people with funerals for this, for that. Yeah. And so it's just a shame that they could do this right there in broad daylight. And it's very hard. I don't see any, it's not that we don't have enough protection. It's just, we don't have enough money, I assume, because these towns are just in poverty and they're just doing whatever it takes to get by.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a very complicated problem.
It's not black. It's not a black and white answer. There's no answer.
Well, people may be watching this for the first time going, what do they want to take down these rhinos? What are they going to do with the horns? Well, much has been said about the rhinoceros horns as a sexual stimulant or a kind of Viagra for the ultimate wealthy. And primarily, I think these are being shipped into the Asian countries. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually, you're 100% correct. I've, my bosses and my colleagues who I work with, they ask me how far are you going? Every time I talk to you, you say, this is where you're stopping. But then I find a little bit more cookie crumbs and I keep following it. I just keep getting deeper. And I think as far as I want to go is where the horn stops in South Africa. And that is in a little town where I don't, for my own protection right now, I don't want to announce the name, but there's a small town in Johannesburg where the horns are being dropped off, purchased for a more amount, and those horns are taken to, say, Tambo Airport. Again, just like the parks, there's people in the airports with fake passes, fake security checks. They see you oh, you're the horn. They see you in the X-ray. There's that bag with all the horns going right through the TSA. And it's such a shame that it's just the whole country is corrupt. And
well, I was going to say, everybody's making money on this, right? I mean, you've got the people who are actually doing the harvesting of the horns. We'll get more into that in a minute, but they're, from what I'm understanding, they're making pennies on the dollar. And then you have the guys who are picking.
So I'll get back to that. So the first person I interviewed, they got $5. It is pennies on the dollar. But once I got to South Africa, you know, they do get paid a little bit more. They're not lavishly living. They do have money.
Right. But you also got the agents at the airport who are obviously in on the take as well, right?
Yeah, they get a little person.
I mean, they're getting paid off to ship it outside the country. Then once it gets over to outside countries where it'll make big dollars, are they grinding these horns up and placing them into drugs, or are they selling them as powders? Are they selling them as a whole horn? How does that go?
You can buy it as a horn. You can buy it as a powder. You know, as you mentioned earlier, Todd, it's an aphrodisiac. It's for, you know, like a sex drive. But unfortunately, that's not true. The horn, just like our hair, just like our nails, it's keratin. There is no medicinal property in the horn and pangolin scales or any other illegal wildlife that's being traded to Asia.
And just to, these are majestic animals. To show you some pictures of them, there are two horns on many of these rhinos. Indian rhinos and rhinos from Java only have one horn. We've got pictures of a rhino and her baby who has some bird passengers on the mother. And a large horn up front is called the anterior horn. The smaller one is called the frontal horn. And maybe you can tell us, are there different costs for each of these horns? Are they valued more, Jacob?
It's the weight. It's the weight.
It's all the weight.
You could even saw off the horn, and if you're leaving that much of the horn, they're still going to get it because there's still value. Because you also got to remember that there's the base of the horn, the root going under in. So whenever they kill the rhino, they will get that knife. And I've seen their knives before in person. And honestly, that's just the thing that just brings chills down my spine. And I'm just like, can I hold it? And I'm just like looking at this thing and just imagining how many rhinos has this like Rambo knife has killed. And they tell me they scoop in and they just shovel it like ice cream and they just scoop it out. And it's disgusting.
And I was going to the next question. I mean, obviously, you're not going to sedate a rhino. I know in zoos that I've read that some zoos, if the rhino is aggressive and they're putting it in a pen with other rhinos, they may actually put the rhino under and saw off the horn for protection of itself and others.
And I've done that.
They're taking down these majestic animals, right?
Yeah, I had a really nice day with, and you can Google him, John Hume, Hume. He lives in Klerksdorp, and on off location, he has maybe 1,500 rhino. He has the largest rhino ranch in the world. And what he does is he has been sawing off all the horns and hopes to open up and flood the market. And yes, you are correct. We sedate the animal with a dart, and we saw the horn off, and we weigh them. So whether the horn is this big or this big, it doesn't matter. It's just all by weight. And even the shavings, whenever we shave it, all the sawdust, it's all being collected and put in a bag because that holds value.
And is he putting it out there in the market to flood the market, or how's that working?
He wants to flood the market and open it up in South Africa so that money will come back into his pocket so that he could support and save the rhino.
Rhinos, yeah, 50 rhino, correct. Yeah.
I know it's very controversial, and I've heard his story, and I've hung out with him for a few days. And hearing his story, he's very passionate, very angry at the media on how they view him. And I see his story. I get it. And I feel that or no one else can bash his idea or his solution because they've not given him a chance to allow him to see if this could work.
Well, it's kind of like legalizing marijuana or something like that, where you're making it more accessible in a way to people to kind of curb the market in a way. Do you look at it like that?
Yeah, exactly. 100%. That's exactly what John has in mind. Bless his heart, because with 1,500 rhinos, he is a very successful man, and he has been funding this rhino ranch out of his own pocket. And I hope one day that he will find his answer, and it'd be nice for him to be the one that does save the rhino.
Jacob, you talked about the horror story of digging out the the root of the base. I imagine there are some other stories that you've seen or things that you've heard of while you were out there in the field with these poachers.
Yeah, right here. I want to show you this. This was given me as a gift. This is a shoe. As you see, here's the toe, here's the heel. But if you flip it, here's the toe, here's the heel. And it's been flipped. So whenever they're walking, it looks like they're going this way. And this is what the poachers wear while they're out hunting rhino, because it distracts the police just in case if they have to run. And I feel very honored to have this because, like I said, the rhino is going to go extinct, whether you and I like it or not. And just holding this historical shoe, just knowing that this was the answer to killing the rhino. And it's tragic. It's really sad. And I just hope one day that these men will have no longer a need to do this. But you got pretty tight with these guys. I mean, you had to build up some trust. You're there. I imagine you've got your cameras with you. You're shooting some video, taking some pictures, wanting to know their stories. Was there apprehension? Did you have to build the trust with them as you were doing this? Yeah, absolutely. I first, where do you start? Like, really, where do you start? You don't know. You just go in, and I went to a village, and you just kind of you got to hang out with the wrong crowd. And I hate to judge people, but you're like, he looks dodgy. He looks like a shady person. Let's go hang out with that guy. Let's see what we can get out of him. Next thing you know, he's asking if we want to do cocaine, and then we say yes. Yeah, sure. Whatever will get you to talk. And I'm not trying to exploit these people, but I'm just really trying to just be their friend and just, live their life. I'm really putting on their shoes. And oh shit, I'm so sorry. And just hanging out with them, and I'm partying with them. Yeah. And then finally, it was when he goes, okay, he goes, what are you here for? He goes, I see that you're not a cop. He's like, you're too wild. And that's whenever I told him, I'm like, look, man, I'm from Texas. You see, I'm by myself. We've been hanging out for a minute. There's no one. It's just me. I really want to know the story of a poacher. I want to follow them from point A to point Z, and let's figure things out. I want to learn from you guys, and I want to not show your face. I don't want to know your name. Don't even tell me your name. And I just want to just be in a world where I don't belong and just be a fly. And he goes, okay, one moment. He walked away. He calls his friend on the phone, and he goes, no, he's not a cop. I don't know what he is, but you have to meet this guy. And then he goes, okay. He goes, okay, let's get in your car. Now I am deathly afraid, because now I just opened up the can of something. I don't know if he's telling me the truth, if he's going to lead me to poachers or gangsters, because just a year before, what I did was I'm doing the same thing as these two Europeans. They went to Mozambique, and they knocked on the door of a kingpin. They found out where he lived. They kidnapped him. They robbed him. They beat the heck out of him. And it was on world news. And they eventually got freed, but that's not without a heavy price of getting, the mutilated. They destroyed their body. And so I'm thinking, like, is this what I'm about to do? Like, I'm by myself. I'm with this guy that I told him everything was going to be all right, which is a complete lie. And I think he knew that, but I think he wanted the adrenaline rush as well. And then sure enough, we go to this bar in this little village. And that was by my rules. I said, if we're going to meet these people, they're going to be in public. And he goes, that's fine. Right. He goes, you're good. And the person that I was with, it was like a gold mine finding a gem, because the person that I was partying with was the brother of a very well-known kingpin. And I'm not going to say his name, because if I say his name, then you would Google him and find out who this person is. But it was, I got lucky. And the whole time I have been just tremendously lucky to not have any negative encounters. That's not to say that I've been under a lot of pressure. Like, ever since I've gotten back, I've grown more gray hair just from stress. Like, it is scary with these guys, because just because they're nice doesn't mean their friends are. And if their kingpin says, these white guys, this American guys got to go.
Right.
That's it for me. They have to look at the poacher, and the poacher has to say, yes, sir. And he's like, let's go, Jacob. And then I could die. I don't know, but I'm lucky that I'm still here.
You sent us a picture, which has kind of intrigued me, and it was you sitting around with 3 women. Maybe we can show that picture, and you can tell us a story about that one. Do you remember?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that would be the birth of that would be the origin. So that photo was in Uganda, and that was with the Botswana pygmies, and they primarily eat bushmeat, such as pangolins, and other animals. But, the pangolin is where I started this whole project. And I was not going to give up until I found a live pangolin. And I met these people. They had this bag, the Botswana pygmies. They had this bag just the size of this pillow. There were 9 pangolins in there that were dead, just their carcasses. And it just made me wonder, because I said, you eat this? He's like, yes. And I'm like, okay, well, you are Bushmen. I understand that. You do eat bushmeat. I get that. But why do you have these scales? Like you and I, if we were to eat a bucket of chicken, we're not going to save the bones. Yeah. Why are you holding onto those scales? So it just made me question, they know the value in these scales. Otherwise, they would just scrap them, throw them away. They're waiting to sell them.
And for people who may not know what pangolins are, you can Google them, but they're a distant relative to the armadillos, correct?
I feel like I'm in my house. Here, I'll show you the pangolin.
Okay, because if you haven't seen one, a fascinating looking animal. And I imagine their scales are worth a lot, from what you're telling me.
Pardon me, say that again, please.
Is the body of the scales worth something afterwards? Is that what's going on?
So with the pangolin, it's the entire body. The scales are used for asthma. It's used for arthritis, for stomach cancer. You name it, this animal will cure it. The meat is used as a meat delicacy, and you can go in the markets and you can buy all of this, what I just mentioned, and right. In South Africa or Asia. And as I mentioned, just like the rhino, it's all keratin. There's no medicinal property in this, but with muti and traditional medicine, this is something that's been going on for, say, thousands of years. What else has been going on for thousands of years? Religion.
Right.
Do I believe in religion? No, not whatsoever. I think religion is the biggest scam that the world has ever pulled. But here in America, like if I have, like my parents who are religious, I have to respect them. I'm not going to talk down on them.
Sure.
So whenever I meet these people who use traditional medicine and use muti, I'm not going to bash them. This is their lifestyle. This is what they like. It's like kind of like they don't want you to think they just want you to know. It's the same thing. It's just, I really wish that these people would do their research and realize that they're being scammed. But at the end of the day, this animal, the rhino, it still holds value. So
I think we have what I respect about your story.
So at the end of the day, it's the animal that's being scammed.
It is, but it's also the people. And I respect when you and I first talked, and we've got less than 2 minutes left, but I respect the angle you're taking, because, it seems like many documentaries may focus on the crime of the trade. But why are people doing that? They're impoverished. They're trying to put food on the table. They're trying to rise above, keep a roof over their head, feed their family. There's many more factors going into this than just respecting animals. There's a lot.
100%. It was me and the poacher that I live with them. I stay at their houses. I hang out with their kids, and we share the same birthday. And one day we celebrated our birthdays together. And one day I asked him, I was like, hey, man, why do you do this? Because you're such a good guy. I genuinely like you. You're funny. And he pointed at that shut door over there. He goes, in that door are my 2 daughters, and I'm just putting them through school. He goes, I want them to live the life that I've never lived. I want to give them a better life because I can't read. I can't write. I'm trying to make the best life for them. And it's the sacrifices. They know it's wrong. They don't like it.
But it's their sacrifices. Jacob Calle, we respect you. We appreciate you joining us on the show. Real quickly, where can people find you on a website? I've got about 30 seconds left.
Just Instagram, JACOBCALLE, Jacob Calle. And if also Johannesburg Wildlife Vet. That's right. Where I do a lot of pangolin work as well. Please give them a follow as well on Instagram. Amazing, beautiful people.
Jacob, thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you all for joining us on the Road Beyond podcast. Look for us on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. It's at Todd Duplantis 65. We look forward to seeing you on our next show. Jacob, thank you. And we'll see you all again on the Road Beyond.
Thank you so much, Todd.
Thank you.